Hello? It's that time of year again. Spooks, the skeletons. The spooks again. This is my Halloween video, and through it I will be sharing spooky stories with you tonight. So gather round, children. Get your treats and your feats, and be ready to be freaked out. I heard one. A father is laying in bed after just waking up. He grabs the baby monitor and walks to his desk in his office at home. He has his baby on the baby monitor, and he hears his wife singing to her.
Go to sleep, go to sleep.
When suddenly, the front door opens up, and his wife comes in with the groceries. A man leaves his house every morning to walk to work and passes a mental hospital surrounded by a wooden fence. Every morning the patients are out in the yard, and he can hear them saying in unison, 10, 10, 10, 10, 10. One day he gets curious and looks through a hole in the fence. Suddenly a big smelly stick shoots out and pokes him in his big eye. "Gah!" he says to himself. "That's really made me oof." While walking away, all peeved, he could hear the patient saying, 11, 11, 11, 11, 11.
I check into a small hotel a few kilometers from Kiev. It is late. I am tired. I tell woman at desk I want a room. She tells me room number and give key. But one more thing, comrade. There is one room without number and always locked. Don't even peek in there. I take key and go to room to sleep. Night comes and I hear trickling of water. It comes from the room across. I cannot sleep, so I open door. It is coming from room with no number. I pound on door, no response. I look in keyhole. I see nothing but red. Water still trickling. I go down to the front desk to complain. By the way, who was in that room? She looked at me and began to tell story. There was woman in there murdered by her husband. Skin all white, except her eyes, which were red.
There was a story about how a guy was driving through the mountains and came across a crash. The car wasn't damaged at all and almost deliberately placed in the middle of the road. He drove past and saw two people lying in the road. He pulls up in front of the crash and then looks back to see that the people sat up, and 20 or so eyes reflecting in his tail lights from the surrounding bushes. He slams on the gas and goes. This story scares me because this kind of thing does happen with mountain tribes, who are either cannibalistic or crazy. Mommy told me never to go in the basement, but I wanted to see what was making that noise. It kinda sounded like a puppy, but it wasn't a normal puppy. It kinda sounded like a weird like, it actually didn't really sound like a puppy at all. It kinda sounded like if you were to just say, heh, over and over again. It was weird. I wanted to check it out. So I opened the basement door and tiptoed down a bit. I didn't see a puppy, and then Mommy yanked me out of the basement and yelled at me. Mommy had never yelled at me before, and it made me sad, and I cried. Then Mommy told me never to go in the basement again, and she gave me a cookie. That made me feel better, so I didn't ask why there was a skeleton in the basement with a blue eye making those This is Skipper's Log, Episode 1. It was the middle of class when my phone vibrated in my big pocket. I pulled it out using my small hand, and I figured out Donald J. Trump had mass texted the entirety of the United States of America. I did not know what to think, so I put it back in my big pocket. I thought nothing of it. Later that day, I was walking home from school, down a road I knew very well. But it was dark. I didn't know why. It was only 2 in the afternoon. I turned around to see him, a man cloaked in darkness. The only part lit up his face, but very dim, showing some sort of grease dripping down his cheeks. I didn't know what it was. I saw he was red and had a eerie red glow to him. I ran. I kept running. I never stopped. I turned back only once, and that was my mistake. He threw something at me, something very slippery. I tasted it, and it tasted salty. I thought, is this bacon grease? I got up, but I couldn't. I kept slipping because of the grease. I couldn't do anything. I was trapped. I cried. I looked back. He was getting closer, inching closer. Suddenly a hand came out of nowhere. A big, massive, strong, masculine hand. He reached towards me. I look up to see none other than Adam Sandler. Without thinking, I grab his hand, and he pulls me up. We start running and never stopping. We never looked back. We escaped the wrath of the Bacon King. I learned that because Adam Sandler told me all about it. He explained how, long ago, the Bacon people and the humans were 2 separate races, each with their own agendas. We lived in harmony and peace until one day, one of the humans tried to gain the knowledge and wisdom that the Bacon people had owned for quite a while. It ended in tragedy and war. It ended very, very badly. We have never gotten along since, and still, humans are being kidnapped day after day. Not knowing where any of them go, we assume it's the Bacon people, out for revenge, all because of one person. One person tried to gain the knowledge of the Bacon people. And that person was Kevin James. I turn to Adam, and I slowly give him a big smooching kiss on his giant forehead. I say, "Thank you for the wisdom. But how do you know all of this? How do you know so much knowledge about the war and what it caused for the people?" He slowly turned to me, inching his neck closer and closer. He opened his mouth and said the words, "Because I am one of the Bacon people." He throws off his mask and reveals him to be the Bacon person. I shriek louder than I've ever shrieked before. Suddenly a light appeared behind me, and it was him, Kevin James, on a moped. He came riding through an explosion with guns and America behind him. I knew this was it. This was the second Bacon-Human War.